So again, once you get those downloaded, go ahead and come to open. And I want to work in the base plan example, and we don't need furniture yet. And before you open, Photoshop is going to ask us some questions. And you can see that this is a huge file, right? It's a 42 by 30. So it's bigger than that board right there. It's quite large. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make that scale a little bit smaller. A lot of our boards, the biggest size that they'll be is this size, which is 24 by 36. But I'm going to go a little bit smaller. I'm going to take it down to like maybe 18 inches wide. And if you click on Constrain Proportions, do you see where my cursor is? Go ahead and click on that. And it should automatically update it. So I have an 18 by about 12 inches now. And then coming down to the next dialog box too, do you see how we've got 300 pixels per inch? That's a lot of pixels per inch. It's wonderful because it's high resolution, but as you guys have seen and maybe discovered, a lot of our images that we get online don't have that type of resolution. So I'm going to take this down to 150, and I'll go ahead and keep it the RGB. This is just going to remain a digital board. So again, I changed the image size. Why did it bump it off? Sorry. To 18 by 12, and then I want it to be 150 pixels per inch. Then once you have those numbers in, go ahead and press OK. I just wanted to leave it up for a minute to make sure you guys got the numbers correct. You guys got that all right? Okay. And now what you see is a Photoshop version of a PDF. So let me do this. I'm going to hop back into my downloads, and I'm going to show you what this looks like if I opened it up in Adobe Acrobat. Okay. So in Adobe Acrobat, we don't have transparent pixels, so it automatically adds a white background, right? No surprise there. And something that you may not have realized is Acrobat actually does have layers. Let me see if I can, I'm in Professional. This might not have layers, and that's why it's not coming up, but you can see layers. I've got Menu, there we go, Layers. So if I go to my layers, this particular drawing is a flattened image. If you have been working in AutoCAD, how many of you guys in here, show of hands, have taken or are in AutoCAD? Okay, so if you're familiar with AutoCAD layers, you can actually come to your PDF and check those out too. I just wanted to see, this is a Revit file, so it didn't preserve the layers, but you can see them here. So hopping back into Photoshop, you can see that because the Autodesk was an actual graphic, it does have the white around it, but other than that, it's on a transparent background. So one of the first things I like to do is start my file organization so I can add a white background. So let's start with layer 1, and let's rename this floor plan. And just to kind of pull the crowd, how would you guys add the white background? Would you guys add it onto the floor plan layer or make it like its own distinct layer? Okay, I heard a lot of make it its own layer, and that's what you want to do, because if you can imagine, if I went to my floor plan layer, if I wanted to color this white, there'd be a lot of paint bucketing going on around all of the different islands that the floor plan has created. So let's go ahead and make a new layer and call it background. Okay. And this is kind of a review, so I'm going a little bit faster. And then go ahead and paint your background white so you do have a true background. So just a quick recap, I made a new layer. I had to change the layer order because my background actually went on top of my floor plan layer. So I dragged that back down under, and then using G, I got to my paint bucket, and I had to change my color back to white. Did everybody make their way through that okay? Right? Maybe? So when you get your paint bucket, make sure you've clicked into the background layer. If you've selected the paint bucket but you aren't selected on a layer, there's really nowhere to paint. Maybe hit Control D. Something might be selected that you don't know. And see if that worked. And you're sure it's the paint bucket? So this is blacked out? Yeah. G for paint bucket. And is the color white? And last thing, layer visibility. Just make sure the eyeball, excuse me, make sure the eyeball's on. Still doesn't.
Also, when you moved your background, did it do that checker thing?
Yes, it was a transparent layer. So when you go to new layer, it's automatically transparent. So you have the checkerboard. Okay. And then in this layer here, when I click into it, if I go to my gradient, now I can just click in here and it fills it with the white color.
It has like a little circle looking across
Okay. I don't know why it wouldn't be letting you do that. Are you sure you're clicked onto the layer? Let's see what it's going on. So the background, you clicked onto it, and then, so that's not quite the paint bucket, right? Click on it. And then paint bucket tool.
Oh,
there you go. You were in some weird 3D coloring mode.
Oh, okay.
Right, so now that we have a background, what we'll be doing today is learning how to add color and texture onto a floor plan. So if you ever wanted to kind of play with rendering a floor plan, you can do it using Photoshop as well. If you're in Revit, you'll learn how to do it in Revit. It does a pretty good job, but sometimes you just don't have the time to put the materials in Revit, or maybe you can't find exactly what you want. So if you wanted to quickly mock something up, that's what we'll be going over today. Before we get started on adding color, one thing I would like to do is I don't want to work directly on my floor plan. So I'm going to make another new layer, and I'm going to call it Flooring 1. Super generic, but still. And for Flooring 1, we're just going to start off by really simply kind of filling it up with color, okay? And the room that I want to start with is this room on the left side of our plan. This is a bedroom. So for my Revit peeps who are sitting right here, you guys know this is the tiny house, right? So this is our tiny house exercise. And before I show you guys how to do it, let me just kind of pause for less than a minute or so. I want you guys to go through and think if you needed to color this with like a gray color, just to indicate some sort of color, think about the steps that you would take, and then we'll do it together, okay? Just take a minute to think about it. All right, should we try it together? So before, I'm not gonna say before again, let's get started together in the sense where if you guys wouldn't mind, I'm gonna start, Fabi, with you. I usually start on the ends, but I'll start at the middle today, and then we'll go up this way and around. How would you start?
I make sure that my box is on the flooring one.
Yeah, so if we start at the flooring, this is what we have selected. What would you do, Valerie?
Quick select.
Quick select? Okay, so really quick, if I'm on my flooring and I go to quick select, which is W, I don't know, see how it's not quite working? Okay. Oh. Let's stick with this, with the quick selection, because I think it's going to work. Is there anything on my flooring layer yet? It's a blank, right? So Olivia, can you think of how I can troubleshoot and quickly select this but still hop back into my flooring layer? We're kind of going back to the first and second week of class. I know it sounds kind of crazy.
Could you mask it on the floor plan layer?
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to go on the floor plan layer just to do our selection. So we're not even masking, but I'm on floor plan, okay? And I'm going to use my quick selection as Valerie selected. I'm going to click into, oh wait, let me do Control D. Mine is still being weird. Let me do quick select. Are you guys able to get the whole room without it being weird? No? Let me go to the magic wand and see if it, weird, okay. The magic wand works really well in that room. It automatically grabbed the space. Did it work for you too? Okay. Yeah, so for this one, use the magic wand tool. So I right clicked and came to this one. And I was able, while I was on my floor plan layer, let me show you one more time. I clicked right in and it just gets that room. Okay. So now Samantha, I've got it selected. What layer am I on?
Floor plan?
Yep. What layer do I want to be on?
Flooring.
Flooring, good. So now that I'm on the right layer, Jackson, do you remember the shortcut to paint inside of here? Is it P? I've never tried it. No, it's not P. Let's try it again. If you don't know, maybe G. Good. So gradient, and it's the gradient bucket. So just make sure it looks like a paint bucket. And grab any gray that you want. So again, the way that I did it, come to your color palette and double click on it. Okay. And then you should just be able to click into here. And before I'm done, how do I deselect? So Camille, how do I still have ants marching around my floor. How do I deselect those? Control D, good. So really simple way just to add like a color finish. And sometimes you might even use this, not necessarily to add a flooring texture, but if you're doing some sort of space diagram, like if you wanted to show off to the side, these are all of like the living spaces, these are community spaces or public versus private, any sort of color diagramming, you can use this method. Before we get too far, let's stay on flooring 1, and I'm going to show you guys a filter that you can throw onto this. I'm so embarrassed, I completely forgot what it was. I'm like, which one was it? I haven't done this in such a long time. My brain does work. So come up to filter for me and find noise. And then after that, go to add noise. So I'm going to hang out here for just a minute so you can find it. And when you do that, let me zoom into my drawing a little bit more. For those of you guys who are young enough to grow up with, I don't know what kind of TV, but sometimes the TV would go out and this is what it looked like. What was that?
The snowing.
Yeah, the snowy TV. So in order for it not to look like rainbow carpet, but still look like gray carpet, click on monochromatic. And it really starts to look like a carpeted texture. And I've even had some students play with like the amount of noise, and they almost get like a marbled effect. So don't accidentally turn your floors into marble. Use the two techniques separately. But the noise filter is a good thing to use if you want to add texture and dimension. Okay. So again, that's under noise, and unlike like Revit or CAD or drafting, there's no precision to this. It's really just kind of eyeballing it and deciding what looks right for your floor plan depending on the scale of everything. Okay, but that is another technique that you guys can use. So there's one way. Before we go on to the next technique, do you guys feel comfortable just with the concept of selecting an area, whether it's a room or a wall, just selecting an area and adding color to it? Does that make sense to you guys?
Why is it that we selected it on the
So there's nothing to select on the flooring plan. And in fact, I didn't try it, but so there are times, that's a great question. I wouldn't have answered it, but let me show you. So on floor plan, if I go to select it, whoops, that's what I meant to do, Control Z. I'm on floor plan. I'm gonna go to wand. Not what I mean to do. Your question was, so layer 1 is flooring 2, okay, right? So this is totally blank. If I turn it on and off, nothing happens. Her question is, why is it that in flooring 2, we can't select? See how when I went to select, it's getting the whole drawing, right? So that doesn't work. But what you guys will find, and I'm just going to introduce it now, when we get back from spring break, this was something I was going to show you, but I'll show you today. You can actually, in flooring 2, you can select on something called sample all layers. Do you see that? And then if you click on that, basically anything is fair game for it to calculate a selection. Depending on how much stuff is on the floor plan, sometimes this helps you, sometimes it doesn't, but this option is available to you. Okay, let me hit Control D. Say it one more time. Oh, instead of sample all layers? Okay, click on it and see if it does the same thing. And let me see. So the way that I got here, I'm in wand, and when I'm in wand, it does have sample all layers. Catherine, what do you see on your screen?
Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah, I was on one. That's fine.
Okay,
So
got it.
before I bothered, then I was.
Okay. So when I am in, even if I'm in magic wand, sample all layers is still here. It moves a little bit, but sample all layers is still an option. So magic wand, sample all layers. Okay. So Kristen, the answer to your question is I didn't have to click off of it and go back on. But up until this point, we hadn't discussed sample all layers, so I was doing it kind of the old school method.
Gotcha. I wasn't thinking about how that wasn't also on that. So
Got it.
as soon as you started explaining it, I was like,
Got it.
I gotcha.
But still, this is kind of like an extra technique. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next part, which is how you would go online and find flooring and bring it into your plan, which is kind of above and beyond what you'd ever want to do. But I've seen people do it, so we're going to give it a try. So go ahead and open up your internet browser. I prefer Chrome so that we're all looking at the same thing. And I'm just going to type in wood flooring. And I'm not getting anything anytime soon, so I'll hang out here for a minute. But I'm going to look up wood flooring to see what comes up, and I might try one other one if anything good comes up. I'm also going to look up wood flooring seamless. Okay, this is good. So look up wood flooring seamless. And again, please try to use Google Chrome so our results are similar.
Can I point out something that I found helpful when looking
Sure.
at images?
Yeah.
Click on tools. It drops down and shows you size. And you
Yes.
can select large so it's not showing you the tiny images.
Absolutely. And so for me, I'm a little bit picky. Because a lot of times, especially for what we're doing, I usually have all of these gorgeous examples, but the moment I change it to large, a lot of them go away. And so what I usually like to do is I will look at any size, and then let's say one of these, let me try to find one that's tiny. Typically, if I hover over it, it'll tell me the size. It's not doing it. Do you have to click on it now? Oh man. Okay, well that doesn't help us. Weird. Okay, nope, that doesn't help. All right, so to save time, go ahead and go to at least medium or large so you're not grabbing icons or anything like that. But it still can be deceiving, but we'll leave it there. Let me explain what a seamless texture is. So a seamless texture is something that even when you repeat it, you don't see a seam on it. And these are typically files that somebody has actually created or rendered for this purpose. So if we click on, do you see how this timber flooring one, there's a watermark on it? That's because they want us to buy it from them. So what I'm trying to do is find like this seamless oak one. I'm going to see if I can try to find one that's large and free, which is really hard to do. Let me look at this Pinterest one. Oh, this one would be good. Do you guys see Pinterest.com wood floors for kitchen? Let's see if it really is 5,000. I'm going to go to open image and new tab. Oh, Pinterest has ruined the internet. That's
It's
tiny.
So pretty.
I know. I'm going to click on view image. Let's see if it is truly large. Nope. Pinterest broke the internet. Let me see if I can find it here. Nope, site can't be reached. Lame. Lame. And when I teach this class, I don't ever give you guys the files. And this is part of why. I don't want to give you guys a file and then later on in the future you guys are like, well, it's impossible to find these things. This is, for me, when I work, I go online and I try to find stuff. If there's a project that I'm working on that I've been commissioned, I would absolutely use part of my project budget to buy something like this, right? It might be like anywhere from this is saying it's 80 cents. But even with the 80 cents, a lot of these sites are like, you have to buy at least $5 worth of credit before you can spend the 80 cents. So I'm going to take off the word seamless and let's see what we get with just regular wood flooring large. I'm going to add one more word to it. I'm going to do wood flooring texture. Here, this is a little bit better. If this basketball court one works, I really like that. I'm going to see if we can get it. Let's grab that one. So let me come back here. Basketball floor texture under PSD graphics. Do you guys see that one? No? So I put in wood flooring texture.
I found it.
You found it? Okay. Great. And for this, again, it's important for us to download the same thing just for this example. So what I do is what you can do. But then after this, you're free to go and find whatever you'd like. But I think it'll help to have the same file to begin with. And then once you get the file, go ahead and do a save image as. And save it wherever you put your other class folders. This is a different size. Okay. I want to make sure that we have the largest one available to us. So when you went on this page, do you see that underneath it there's a link that says medium size preview? This one's actually even a little bit larger. Let's click on that one. So again, on this page, medium size preview, go ahead and save that one for me. And when you do, take a look. One of them is basketball floor, that's the larger one at 397 kilobytes. And then the texture one that I originally downloaded is only 95. See the subtle difference between the two? We want as many pixels as we can get to start off with. Then once you've got it saved, go ahead and meet me back in Photoshop and we'll continue working on this. Right, everybody got it okay? Okay. Before we get started again, I want you guys to think about what we're about to do for a minute because there's several ways of approaching this. And maybe the best way to do it would be to like talk to your neighbor about how you'd approach it, and then I will discuss at least 2 different ways, and then we're going to jump into one of them. So my question to you guys right now is, we just downloaded a wood flooring texture. How do we pull it into this file, and how do we format it? Because the file that we got is square, and all of our rooms are these kind of odd-shaped rectangles. So think about the shape of the room, the scale of the wood flooring. Okay, think about those things and how you'd pull it in. So I'm going to pause. Really, since we're at the midterm, I'm at a point where I really want to kind of throw it back to you. Like, at this point, how would you approach it? How do you feel? Does anybody want to share maybe where they would start? Because this is Photoshop. Again, there's several different ways that this might work. Anybody?
Start at flooring 1, and then maybe get your magic wand.
Okay. So you'd want to mask the area first.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we could start with masking. What else? Anything else, Valerie? Are you brave enough to share?
What we thought would work didn't work.
Okay. Well, what did you think would work? Tell me what you did.
So we opened up the wood flooring.
Okay.
And we went back into layer 1. Oh, you know what? I know what I did wrong. I forgot to go into flooring too. So we downloaded the thing. We opened up the file.
And I think let's all do that. Let's all open up the file. That's a good place to start. No, you're good. That's a good place to start. Just downloading that and opening it. So make sure you get the large one, basketball floor. Okay.
And then we went into floor plan and used the magic wand.
Okay.
And then we went into flooring 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back over to the basketball flooring.
Okay.
Grabbed it and dragged it
Okay.
into. It still doesn't work.
All right. I think you guys are definitely on the right path. So let me drag basketball flooring into our new drawing. Yeah,
Question.
sure.
So like when you select something and you want to mask, is there any way of masking what you selected, like
Uh-huh.
that little area instead of like?
Yeah, you can always invert it. So that's kind of, we'll do that together. So now I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit, and I don't know if so I'm gonna try to drag and drop this in here. There we go. So before I lose you guys, go ahead and pull your flooring into this plan. So Pamela and Alina, come on back and we'll do it all together. So this is a good place to start. And truthfully, Olivia and Fabi, you guys could mask first because we know where we want this to go. So you can start with masking. And what I could even do now is if we wanted to start with masking, I could turn off the eyeball of the floor and just go ahead and mask the area that it's going to go into. Okay? And it might help to leave the flooring on so we can see what it's masking. It even takes me a minute to see where the ants are marching. Okay? So before I go too far, does everybody have their flooring in their drawing yet? Yeah? Okay. And what I'm going to do now is if sample all layers is on, you can stay on your wood floor layer. Okay, I should do that first. Let me rename this wood floor. I'm in my magic wand and I have sample all layers on. So again, wood floor, sample all layers, magic wand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, see how right now all layers on isn't helping me? Because it's like, oh, these two bump up against each other. Now I'm going to do Control D, grab my floor plan, turn off sample all layers, and do you see how it just gets that area of the plan that I want? Okay, so it's good to know sample layers, like when you want it, when you don't. It helped us less than 5 minutes ago, and now it's not helpful. Okay.
So you turned on the sample layers?
Yep, I turned it off because it was running into my floor, so it was only grabbing this area here.
And that was on the sample layer?
Yep, that's what was going on. And so now that I've made this selection, I can go ahead and click on mask, but I don't want this floor plan. I want to mask the wood floor. So see how I drag and dropped it up here? So mask it like I've done here and see how it's like, oh, where did my floor plan go? That's not really what you wanted to mask. You were using that floor plan to mask, but let's take this layer and drag and drop it on our wood floor. No, Lorena, if this was the opposite of what we wanted, if you click on your...
That's what I was talking about during that. You did
Oh, okay. All right, sorry. Let me answer that though. So if you did get the inverse, because sometimes that does happen, you could hit Control I and flip it. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's what we've got right now. What do you guys think about the wood floor? It's pretty big, right? It's in the right area, except for here, but it's really big. So how would you guys fix the scale? What's the shortcut? Yep, and we can see right now, if we transform it, it's gonna get smaller and not fill up the space. So let me skip ahead. We're gonna use Control T to fix the scale. This is subjective. We're gonna decide what the scale is. Once we fix the scale and it's too small, how do we duplicate this? Because we're gonna need more wood floor, right? So how do we duplicate layers in Photoshop? Even just Alt? Yep, just an Alt click. Yep, just Alt. Good. So try that on your own, or if you want to follow along with me, that's exactly what I'm about to do. So in my wood floor layer, I'm gonna hit Control T, and I'm gonna grab a corner and just kind of squeeze it down. Did I mask it too soon? See how it's going all crazy? Okay. I'm gonna hit Escape, and we're gonna do something we haven't done before. Do you guys notice that there's a little link between these two? That means that they are linked or changed together. If one moves, the other one moves. If one gets transformed, the other gets transformed. I'm gonna deselect this, and I'm gonna try transforming it one more time. And you see how now I can move this floor independently of this mask? Did that work for you guys? Okay. I'm gonna cheat a little bit though. So again, this is the part that's a little bit subjective. I'm gonna make sure my planks look right in the horizontal direction first. And then if I hold the Shift key, I can drag it without having it be in proportion. Like right now, if you click and drag on anything, it does it in proportion. If you hold the Shift key, it breaks that proportion. Now, if any of you guys used Photoshop before this year, this was the opposite. So if you ever closely watch my videos in class, I almost always do it wrong, because up until about 6 months ago, you had to hold Shift to lock the proportion. Now you hold Shift to unlock, but in InDesign, it's still the opposite. So my brain's always like, rit, 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 rit. I've just learned to kind of accept what's going on. Okay, so make it look right to you. And then after you've transformed it, hit Enter. Okay, and then right now, oh, you guys can't see my cursor. Okay, you can't see my cursor, but look at my tools. Where does my cursor or my toolbar need to be before I can hit Alt to copy it? V. So I'm going to click V. My cursor changed. You guys can't see it on my cursor, but you can see it here. And now if I hold Alt, I can just drag this down, and you can eyeball it to wherever it looks right. Like you can scooch it over a little bit. You can even hit Control T and like flip it. See, it says flip horizontal or vertical. You could try to flip it to see if it looks a little bit more unique, just to try to make it look a little bit more seamless. And then when you're done, hit Enter.
Mine's not staying to proportion. It's Alt.
Shift.
Shift.
Okay. Yes, that too. I won't tell your kids, Valerie.
No, I didn't say.
I know you didn't. What I'm doing right now is I'm making a folder called wood flooring. And there's a couple things that we can do here too. So see how I've got two different pieces of wood flooring? I can take the two separate pieces. I made it woof flooring, my bad. That would be a great line of flooring for dogs. You're welcome when you're on Shark Tank. You could even, we haven't done this part before either, so I'm going to wait a minute so you guys can really see it. You can leave them separate or you can combine them by selecting. One thing I'm not sure of, to be completely honest, if I combine them, it's not letting me merge layers. What am I doing wrong? Is it because they're masked? No. Usually you can combine layers. This one isn't either. I'm clicking on the wrong place. Okay, let me try this one more time. It's so picky about where you click. Let me do, if I merge them, I don't want to lose my mask. So let me watch out for that. Oh, I got rid of my mask. See how it just kind of cropped it out? We like that, but we also don't like that we lost our mask, because then if we need to do anything else in here, our mask is gone, if that makes sense. I could, do you guys want to see the super long way of doing it? Only because I'm really protective of my masks. Okay, one other way that you could try to do it, I am actually going to duplicate this layer here one more time, but I'm not going to do the Alt way where I have to move it. I'm going to drag it down and make a copy of it. And the only reason why I did that is because I want to preserve the mask. Okay? And in fact, I'm going to see, I don't think I can. I'm going to see if I can duplicate the mask without duplicating the layer. Nope. See how it grays out? When I start dragging it down, it won't let me. I have to copy the whole layer. Everybody with me so far? Okay, and hopefully this will make sense. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge these two, just like I did before. So I select one, and then I hold the Shift key down to select the other. And then right click, merge. Okay. And now, just because I'm protective of my masks, I'm going to drag and drop this back here and delete this one. So these are all still together. That way, again, if I ever want to make edits, see how I don't have like flooring here? I can still try and fix stuff. So a couple things that I still need to clean up, and maybe I wasn't ready to combine them yet, but I need to fix this hole right here, because even if a door is open, there should be wood floor. And in the bathroom, this flooring should end here. Your flooring doesn't go in under the door and stop. This is going to be something completely different. Okay, so with that in mind, you guys aren't going to be very happy with me. I'm actually going to come back a little bit. I'm going to come back to this point right here. See how I still have my masks at this point? That way I can get this back here. It's this one right there. So bring it back under the door and then get rid of it here. So essentially take the mask off here, add a mask there. And I'm linking my masks again just because I'm done with that. Okay. And tell me again with this one, if I want to get rid of the door, I'm on my mask. What color masks? Black, good. So I'm just gonna spill black in there and I'm gonna zoom in to make sure it got it. Yep. Okay. Say that one more time.
It's not working.
Which part of it?
The
Oopsie.
rock. I selected it.
Okay. Make sure you're on your mask, the correct one, because if you look at mine, see how I have two masks? that look the exact same. Just make sure you're on the right layer. Did that help? Okay, so on this part right here, again, I'm going to turn this on and off. This is the right layer, it's the right mask. Here, do I need to add black or white? So if it's already masked, what color brings it back?
White.
Good. What color am I on right now? How can I easily switch to white? What's the keyboard key? Good. So if I do X, and then G for gradient, I should be able to spill that in. And if I wanted to be really fancy, let me back up a little bit. I can probably take out the door at least, so we can at least still see the door. So with my marquee, I'm actually, see how I'm right next to the door now? I'll do it like that. So what I would like you guys to do is to go ahead and clean this area up.
Do you still want the door swing?
The line of the door swing, if mine got buried, and I think it did, what we'd have to do for this one, I would have to essentially move my floor plan layer to the top, and that'll fix it. So that should be an easy fix for you. Did that work? Good. So this was our class exercise, and what I'm going to do now, typically I have you guys do the bathroom too, but I'm going to switch because I want you guys to have time to work on your assignment in class today. That way hopefully you'll get your assignment done before spring break, but your assignment is going to be slightly different than this, and it's because there's furniture in there. So let me show you that real quick. So I'm still going to do the 18 by 12-ish and 150. Hopefully I downloaded the right one. Okay, so this one, the masking will just be slightly different because there is furniture in there. Never mind that the chairs are facing the wrong way. If you want to fix the floor plan and fix the chairs, that's great. But this is just a quick example that I had. So one thing that I'd like to do is after you guys get some flooring in here, and in fact, if you guys don't mind, let's do, go ahead and open up this file and open up, finish up your basketball floor in the example, and you can come back and finish it, but we're still going to finish that one up and turn it in. I want you guys to open up the base plan example with furniture. I'm going to show you a quick example in the bedroom, and then I'll let you guys start working on your assignment.
Can I open with the same specs?
Sorry, one sec. Yeah, I'll be right there. Say that one more time.
Do you want to open with the
Yes,
same specs?
same spec. So the 150 and then 18 is the width.
So I got lost on this, and I masked floor
Okay, good.
here,
Yeah,
but then this is before we resized it.
sure. So
So
what I
now
want
to
you,
make the,
oh, so stay on that layer. So click on the layer with the masket. And see how there's a chain between the wood floor and the flooring? Deselect that and they will no longer be linked together. You'll link them again later, but by unlinking them, now you can keep the floor masked, but transform the wood floor to be a smaller size.
oh,
Yep. You're welcome.
okay.
Yeah, Linda?
So, I'm not, is it
select it. Let's make sure it's the right mask, just because there's two. So turn the eyeball on and off on the layer you've got selected. So work on the layer underneath it. There you go. So that's the layer you want to work on.
And then,
And then
maybe I was just.
you've got it. And I would use a marquee, just because the marquee gives you the really clean line, whereas the brush is a little soft.
Right.
You've got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you guys a couple minutes, not even a couple minutes. Finish up what you're doing. You can continue working on the example, but meet me here. Like I said, I just wanted to show you guys one other layer. And what I'm doing is I went ahead and named it floor plan and flooring. So if you want to get started, you can do that. And I don't want to leave you guys behind, so let me know. Are you guys ready to hop into this? Linda, did I give you a sec to get caught up?
I'll finish.
Okay, but to get into this floor plan?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Then Pamela, you're good too?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So for this one, we're going to do the same thing we did on the first one, where we're going to select this area of the floor plan and paint it gray. This time, we're going to stay on the flooring layer. So Kristen, this goes back to that question you answered, where instead of hopping into another layer and then back to this one, I'm going to click on Magic Wand, so W, and I'm going to go ahead and turn Sample All Layers on again. Now, just a quick test to get used to looking for it. Is my Sample All Layers on or off right now? It's off. It's unselected. So if you're using a laptop, it might take you a minute to find it, just because mine is in the middle of my screen, where if you're on a laptop, everything's kind of compressed, so it's going to be in a different location. But once Sample All Layers is on, even though I'm on flooring, I can easily grab the bedroom. You guys see that? Okay. Now that this is selected, I can go back to G for gradient. I'm going to change my color to a gray. Go really light gray. And then I'm just going to spill some paint in there. And then to deselect so I can move out of this area, what do I hit? Control D. Good. And then just to be consistent, if we go to filter, do you see that at the very top it says add noise? What it does is it saves the last filter you used. So if it works correctly, if I just click on add noise, it should be the same texture, and it also did it monochromatic. So in this case, it's helpful. Sometimes you don't really do the same thing over and over again, but in this case I did. Now the next little bit that I want to show you is that when you guys do this portion of the assignment, I want you guys to add a drop shadow to the furniture, just to maybe make it look a little bit more rendered and realistic. This can also look cheesy, but I have a lot of people, including the man I live with, he loves drop shadows. They're like his favorite thing in the world. And now yeah, it's a whole other story, but he loves drop shadows. So we're going to go into a new effects palette. It's like a layer effects palette. And the easy way to get here now is just to double click on your layer, and it should pop up. You should see something called layer style. Did that work for you guys? Okay. By default, mine has preview on, but I may have turned it on last semester. Is your preview button selected? Yeah. All I did was double click on flooring. And layer style should pop up. Got it? Okay. And as long as preview is on, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so you guys can see, and if you're watching at home, you can see again. Oh, now my graphic card is like, woman, this is hard. Okay. Click on Bevel and Emboss, It's not the one we're using, but I just want you to see what it does. And then you can click on contour or texture. That's what it does. Hooray, good job. Turn it off. Okay. There's also stroke, and you can see what that does is it goes around the layer and it adds a black stroke to it. What was that?
Mine just turned out black.
So your stroke might be really big.
Like the size?
Sorry?
Like when you say it's really big, it's like the size?
Maybe. I don't know. So all of our files are a little bit different. So if you look at mine, when I have stroke on, the size by default is 1. But if I make this bigger, it just makes it chunky. Oops. Okay. So I have stroke off now. It's not the one we're using. We're just playing right now. So just turn it off. So I'm going to show, let me go down. Down at the very bottom, there is drop shadow. But this is going to look a little bit funny. But I don't know if you guys can recognize it yet. So if you click on drop shadow, make the distance about 10 just so we can see. And if you feel brave, you can tell me why, even though it's a drop shadow is a shadow behind. What looks funny about this? Yeah, it looks like there's a shadow on the bed and not behind the bed. So instead of like lifting the bed up off the page by putting a shadow under it, we kind of buried it under a shadow. And that's because we're not really adding a shadow to the bed. The way that this is working is it's looking at our flooring layer and adding a drop shadow around that. So to get around it, you can deselect drop shadow and try inner shadow for me. So I'm going to click on inner shadow, and under that distance, I'm going to make this about 10-ish or so. And you can even change the angle of the light so it maybe comes in from the side. And again, all of this is subjective. And when I say subjective, I mean do what looks right to you. And if it starts to look like unprofessional or cheesy, I will let you know. Like I'll jump in and say you went too far. Like if you took like the size, now it just looks like a vignette, right? Don't make it too big, but it is nice to kind of soften it up. Okay, so I know it's kind of backwards, but the reason why we use an inner shadow is because we're kind of just trying to trick it because we have flooring. Did that work for you, Lorena? Okay, good. And then we can click OK on that. And now, if you notice on my flooring layer, do you see how I have an effects inner shadow? Okay, so it's been added to it. Let me skip ahead. So in about sometime today before you leave, or maybe later today when you're working at home, whatever, you are going to go through and add a flooring pattern to the living area. It could be 1, you could do 2, you could decide to do whatever. And I want you guys, so let's talk about what that looks like. You go online, you Google flooring, you bring in the flooring, right? You mask the area. You probably have to transform, and then you hit Alt and you copy it down, you copy it until the room is full. Everybody with me? Wouldn't it be nice if we could like, hey Siri, Photoshop? Like, hey Siri, like, okay, like the one day you work. Last night, I was talking to my daughter. I was like, hey, sweetie, and she answered. I was like, no, you are not my sweetie. I digress. But you see, like, everything you need to do to get to that point, right? I'm going to give you guys a little hint. So you get to that point, everything's done, it looks great, but you need to add a shadow to it, right? Now let's do a little bit like pretend. If you have created a layer attribute, whether it's an effect or a mask, can you copy those things from one layer to another? Yes. What's our magic button? Alt. Good. So if you've created a shadow effect that you love, instead of going back through and trying to figure out what that looked like and which one you clicked on, click on the one that worked, hold the Alt button, and duplicate it onto the other one. Okay, so it's really just about one, being efficient, so you're not redoing the work, and then also you're efficient, and then you're also being consistent. All of the shadows will look the same. If you are in one house, all of the light is coming from a different direction. I've seen student work where it'll be a 45-degree angle in one room, and then in the other one they kept it in a 90. So there's like crazy shadow patterns. I'm like, maybe it's a time lapse. They started it one day, whatever. So that's a little hint for you guys. That should help. But for your assignment, so the base plan example with furniture, I want you guys to use all like unique floors. So essentially in the living area, which could include the hall, go back online and try to find something unique. It could be a different wood floor. It could be something completely different. Find something different for the bathroom, and then find something different for this hall closet right here. Okay, but at the end, we've done one floor. You guys will be giving me 3 unique floors. Maybe 4 if you're really up to it, but really I'm looking for 3. Does that make sense what I'll be looking for? Okay, let me show you guys one other little trick while we're here, okay? Here's another little trick for you. This is a great wood floor pattern in the sense that I like the planks and I like the grain. What if I don't love the color? Have I taught you guys anything about changing color? Okay, so we'll see if that works. I'm gonna go ahead, now that I've fixed this, actually no, I'm gonna still keep my masks. I'm so possessive of my masks. I'm gonna do a hue saturation, okay, and I'm gonna pull it down. I want this to be in my flooring layer. That's not what I meant to do. I just wanna drag it in here, like that, okay? And I know I want it to be masked to the floor. So here's another Alt drop. You guys still with me? So I made a hue saturation and I copied my layer mask so I don't change the color of everything, just the floor. Remember when our guy with the t-shirt started to turn green? Okay, I don't want this flooring to turn green or whatever color I'll be working on. So here, if I go to colorize, I really don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know, my mask, oh, I dragged and dropped the wrong mask. Let's try this one. Yeah, that's one I wanted. So here, if I go back to the color properties, if you want even just like a gray floor, whatever color you're at, just turn down the saturation. Because saturation is how bright something is, and by turning down the saturation, it takes the color out. And then you can go really light and fade it out, or you can go with like a darker plank too. You could even start going up into like, oh, the lightness is so far down, you won't be able to see it. But you can try to find some dark browns in here somewhere. I don't know where the brown family, I think it would be in here, like reds. Just make it dark, so that kind of gets like chocolatey. I've had some time to practice this. I'm not good with color theory. I need to take Jerry's class. I always have a hard time like, which spectrum is it on? But you can definitely play with hue saturation to get your wood floor or whatever floor you choose. You might find a really good pattern but not a color you love to kind of fake it to look right.
How did you get them to switch together instead of being 2 separate sections of the floor?
There's still 2 separate sections. See how I have this floor?
Okay.
And then I have this floor? I haven't I have the same mask on top of both of them. Except that one of them, if I turn this, yeah, so the mask applies to anything under here. And not just anything under here, anything within this area.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So, even if I turn off this floor, see how this is still getting that same hue saturation? It's anything in this area is fair game. So that means that, see how flooring 1 is up here? If I move this under the mask, okay, it's it's fair game, but it's being masked. So if I turn off the mask, no, that's what I want to do. Sorry. If I disable it, see how it even goes over here?
Mm-hmm.
So basically anything in that area is fair game.
Okay.
I'm just going to move it back up. Okay, so that's what I will be looking for. And again, if you guys have about an hour and a half, so that's a lot of lab time. Originally we were going to do 2 things today, but we're just going to do 1. I would love for you guys to have a spring break. So finish this up, turn it in so that you guys can just have spring break off. And then when we come back, we have a couple of fun things that we're going to do in Photoshop. It's all fun, but it's really rendering stuff. It's pretty crazy rendering. And then we're also going to be starting on InDesign. So just a couple more Photoshop classes, and then we'll start introducing InDesign as well. Okay.
Do we have a rough draft proposal that's due?
No, I'm going to turn that off. Yeah,